Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
I have here the real definitions of getting old. Old is when your friends compliment you on your new alligator shoes and you're barefoot. And old is when getting lucky means you find your car in the parking lot. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. Here comes Kate Smith. And a good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell. Zeb at the Ranch on a Tuesday with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service, 734-6969. And right now, let's have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, you the girl.
I the girl, I'm going to do pledge.
I'm looking forward to it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a beautiful job it was. Gina, if possible, can you give me a little bit more of my headsets? For some reason, I'm down this morning. I'm cranked up all the way here. Right now, we are going to have the weather to start off the day. It's kind of hazy, smoky, cloudy, whatever out there. KNR Rental, 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn. Number to call, 678-3122. They're open Monday through Friday, 7 to 5:30, Saturdays, 7 to 6. And they know that you need all your tools and equipment, forklifts, power tools, lawnmowers, everything. They've got them all at KNR Rental. They've been in business since 1979. They know they have the experience at KNR Rental. Here now, is it live or is it Memorex? Here's the weather.
Well, it's going to be live for today. We are still in that air quality advisory. That's probably going to last us through Friday, because we've got some rain showers and thunderstorms that's going to stick around in the area. Partly cloudy skies for most of the week. Today is going to be slightly breezy. Slight chance of afternoon rain showers or thunderstorms are in the forecast. High of 86. Tonight we're looking at a low of 57. Right now we are sitting at 54.
54?
54.
It's cool out there.
It is.
Wow.
Good.
Wow. I mean, when you said that, I stopped in mid-movement and just stopped.
And you're like, what? No, seriously.
Yeah, my goodness. KNR Rental bringing us the weather at 256 South, 600 west of Heyburn. Number to call, 678-3122. KNR Rental. Hello, Roger and the crew. Hey, by the way, don't forget, too, Thursday sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Merv May, Cade Rogge, Lance Udy, the sale that works for you. Call the number, 678-9411, for cattle consignments or sale information for the big sale every Thursday at Burley Livestock Sale Yard in Burley. Don't forget, Merv May and the crew, Thursday sale day, Burley Livestock. By the way, before we get underway, Gina, maybe you'd like to give us a little update on old Wheels. And can they send cards of well wishes to Wheels at the station? What would you suggest? I had some calls yesterday.
Actually, you can send them to the station, 120 South, 300 West in Rupert. I just got a text from him this morning, and this is what it says. He's like, hey, good morning. I just thought I'd say that my arm's getting a little bit better, although it still feels like a baseball mitt. My body temperature is up. with the compression, and, well, he's having to visit the facilities like crazy, he says. Hopefully today will be his last day for the IV antibiotics, and he will be finishing his oral antibiotics. He does have a doctor's appointment tomorrow with his family doctor, so he hopes everything goes well. It'll feel nice when I'm back to 100% again and working. Thank you guys for keeping me in your prayers. I love you.
Folks, if you would please do me a favor, and that's send cards of well wishes to Wheels at the station K-Bar in Rupert, and I would really appreciate that. He is a great young man, the most polite young man I've been around in a long time, and I just want to make sure he gets better. My thoughts and prayers go out to him, so there you go. I better tell you a little bit about Daryl's Cleaners and keeping your clothes clean. You want to look good. Everybody wants to look good. You don't want to look like these saggy-britched millennials walking around where they've got plumber's butt. No, you want to look nice and neat. Well, make sure you take your clothes into Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And by the way, if you don't have time to go home at night after work and wash, dry, fold, and iron all your clothes, they will. They will. All you have to do is stop in and talk to them today at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Yep, the best right there at Daryl's Cleaners. By the way, I want to remind you that I had a couple of calls yesterday after the program in regards to the big concert coming up this next Saturday at the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo Grounds. And it's going to be a ripping good concert to kind of kick off Cassia County Fair. And it's going to be with Aaron Watson and Ned Ledoux. Don't you think for a minute it gets better. This is great. They've got super people coming in. And I know both these guys, Aaron Watson and Ned Ledoux, and I urge you to get your tickets. And the concert's going to be at 8 p.m. on Saturday, the 12th, and be sure and get your tickets right now for this huge concert, great concert, Aaron Watson and Ned Ledoux at the Cassia County Fairgrounds coming up this Saturday on the 12th. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, I don't know if you're there and have a moment, but I was going to ask you a question this morning.
What's that?
The question is, of the states and cities that you have heard in the news about being sanctuary cities and or, quote, states, who do you think ranks as number one for being a sanctuary state that is going against federal law?
Top of mind, I would probably either say California or Washington.
No. And this one shocked me. It really did. It is, drum roll, Oregon.
Really?
Yes. And
I can see that.
I was shocked when I read, and I had Deanne pull up a bunch of statistics on Oregon, and they started being a sanctuary state, per se, back in 1987. They wanted to defy the federal law way back then, and they've got a lot of people mad in that state right now, because here's a shocking statistic, and I want you to respond to this. 50% of the illegal aliens that are arrested and locked up are locked up for sexual crimes. 50% illegal aliens locked up for sexual crimes.
And the state of Oregon still wants to continue being a sanctuary state then.
Yeah, and
even with these statistics.
Yeah, and did you happen to hear the CNN reporter that made a stupid comment the other day this weekend? Black female reporter stated this past weekend that, I don't know why you're so worried about these illegal aliens, just leave them alone, they're not bothering anyone.
Wow.
Yep.
Apparently they're bothering some people if 50% of them happen to be in jail for sexual crimes.
Yeah, and the Republican State Senator Kim Thatcher of Oregon made this comment, and she's really correct. We should be empowering law enforcement, not rapists and sex offenders. You have two choices. You either embrace the rule of law or you embrace lawbreakers. And quite frankly, when you get right down to the bottom line on all the stupid hyperbole on language and everything about sanctuary cities, they are basically protecting illegalities and illicit means through law breaking, and I don't know how anybody can stand behind that.
So basically, they're not even sending these people back to where they belong.
No, they're basically using sanctuary as a place for them to hide and shelter out. And also, Kim Thatcher said, in addition to your just comment, she said Kate Brown, the governor of Oregon, is sacrificing innocent Oregonian safety on her election altar. And I think Oregonians are starting to wake up and realize the sanctuary state Kool-Aid she's forcing on all of us is horrifically toxic.
It is, but okay. So here's my question: just because I have not done any sort of research on this, who was the governor that enacted this back in the 80s?
You know, I don't have his name. I quite frankly, I was looking for that myself this morning, and I just got a date back in 1987 with the Oregon legislature, and I do not have that information right here with me at this time on that governorship at that time. But when you look at back 87, we're talking 30 years ago. 30 years ago, they started this horrendous activity of being a sanctuary state. And look at the problems that they're having. 50% of the illegal aliens caught are arrested for sex crimes. And this is absolutely ludicrous. You heard about the guy the other day, 20 times deported, 20 times. And now he just was arrested for raping a 65-year-old woman.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Governor Victor G. Atea, he was governor from 79 to 87,
Yeah.
and then Governor Neil Goldschmidt, who was a Democrat,
Yep.
He was from 87 to 91.
Yeah, so there, and you know something, all the sanctuary cities, and I want you to tell me I'm wrong on this, most every sanctuary city in the United States of any size, Rahm Emanuel in Chicago, New York City with de Blasio, etc., what party affiliation do they have?
They're Democrats, aren't they?
Yeah. That answers your question. What's Kate Brown? She's a dyed-in-the-wool liberal Democrat. And it's this kind of movement. Under the guise of saying they're a sanctuary city, they're just doing nothing but enhancing the power of the vote for themselves by encouraging the leftist illegals to come into their city.
I just brought up the story that you're referring to. I'm actually kind of losing it.
Yeah.
Anyhow. I'm going to post this up on your Facebook page.
You know, Gina, it's just sickening that we have a situation in this United States where law-breaking and defying our Constitution and our regulatory means and laws that have been set by our Congress, they're being trashed, thrown in the toilet, and flushed.
Mm-hmm. And I hate to say this, but I'm really not shocked with the state of Oregon. Traditionally, it's always kind of been way out there on the liberal left. And even more so nowadays than most of the western states that surround it. So I'm really not shocked. Am I dismayed? Absolutely. I think that they should be doing more for the Oregon citizenry.
Yeah.
But I am not shocked, and you've got a phone call.
All right, I tell you what, I've got to do 2 quick commercials. Caller, I'll be right with you, please. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Oh, my. 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday, and the temperatures are still going to be up there, warm, warm, warm. And you better make sure that your air conditioning unit is working efficiently for you. All you have to do is go in there and check out the air filters at Ramsey Heating and Electric. All your heating, cooling, and electrical needs with the people that know. They are the pros, where, of course, they provide warm winters and cool summers. Ramsey Heating and Electric. You stop in and see those good folks today. And don't forget, too, America's Diner. Oh, my, we got to talk about our friends at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Delicious, all their burgers. They've got a new line of burgers that absolutely will knock off your Justin boots. Woo, they're good. And, of course, they serve breakfast around the clock. Everything for you on the menu, fantastic. Great service, nice people at Denny's Restaurant. Yep. It is America's Diner at 611 North Overland and Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. I think that people like Ron Emanuel, they're not really worried about those bums that are in these sanctuary cities. I'd like to know exactly how much is going into their personal coffers.
Well, of course not.
I think this is what the main thing is about with a lot of these. Besides vote, it's they're building their own personal fortunes.
Well, you know as well as I do that when you're talking about Chicago and you're talking about the history of Chicago and the history of Chicago politics, you're talking about one of the most crime-laden cities ever in the history of the United States, with the mob and mafia rules and the under-the-table payments and everything. You know as well as I do, Tony, with a wink and an eye, something not wholesome is going on in Chicago.
Well, the city I came from, and I'm not going to talk about it over the phone. I'll call you one night and tell you about it. And the very same thing that's happening there has happened in the city that I left. And this is way back over 50 years ago. So what's going on now isn't anything new to me.
No, but let me ask you this. For a gentleman that's been around for a little while longer than I have, I really respect your opinion. Why do cities keep continually putting in the Democratic nominees for the mayor, etc.? Why did they do that, knowing the track record of like Bill de Blasio, knowing the track record of like Rahm Emanuel? Why do they do that to their cities so they end up with the sleaze that they're getting now?
Well, the leadership doesn't care what happens to people like you and I or the taxpayers. It's all personal. It's greed.
Yeah.
It's just like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. All this is money to them. They don't care about us.
I can't argue with you. I absolutely agree with you, but I just don't understand why cities and voters are that duped into putting a Democrat into the position of power like Rahm Emanuel that won't do anything about what's going on the south side of Chicago with the absolute heinous crime, murders, shootings every day. It's pathetic. Did you know that right now, New York and Los Angeles combined still do not have the murder rate that is going on in Chicago? This is absolutely pathetic.
Oh, it is. I hate to even think about the possibility of martial law coming into this country, but, I think it's inevitable. It's just a matter of time when it happens. Otherwise, we're going to lose our country, and once we lose it, we'll never get it back.
I'm afraid you may be right, my friend. Tony, it's always good to hear from you. Take care. God bless. Thank you so much.
I certainly will. Thank you.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
Hey, a lot of people are telling you to come on over to the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo for this year, like Streamline Precision of Burley. Tim and the rest of the crew, these are such nice folks and so knowledgeable. Tim and the crew from Streamline Precision, they want to give you a huge shout out and a thank you to everybody that helps every day around our community, our policemen, our firemen, and they want to wish good luck to all the 4-H'ers and FFA with all their projects. Streamline Precision for the best in steel buildings for your agricultural, industrial, and community buildings. They can do the job. Please give them a call at 431-7314 or 678-9204. Streamline Precision of Burley. Along with Butte Irrigation, 116 South, 600 West, Highway 27 in Paul, and their new location on Kimberly Road, north of Kimberly by Red Cap Corner. I'm telling you, the best of irrigation right there. And now's the best time to buy your Newsmatic pivots in the fall. And don't forget, when it comes to irrigation and all that you need for your crops, they'll get you wet. Butte Irrigation, 116 South, 600 West, Highway 27 in Paul, and Red Cap Corner in Kimberly. Butte Irrigation. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. It's been a couple of weeks ago that I heard this on the radio, that Oregon had proposal before their local government that they were going to, what can I say, they were proposing Oregon to be a full abortion state.
Oh, my. Yeah.
Right up to and through the third trimester. That's just before the baby's born.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Keith, that last night I watched a report that sickened me. And I just absolutely, it was a horrible segment last night on Planned Parenthood. And it was sickening and inhuman. They had a lady that had originally worked as a Planned Parenthood manager. I don't know the place. I don't know the state. That was not mentioned. However, she was talking about how they, Planned Parenthood, have to make, quote, their monthly abortion quotas. And they talked openly and fluently about selling baby parts. And the staff joked about killing babies. It was so revolting last night that I told my wife, I said, is this where we've come in America? Is this where we're at in the world today? God help us.
What state was this proposed in?
No. Don't misunderstand. They interviewed this lady that was a former manager of a Planned Parenthood facility. They did not give her state. They did not give the location. But she was interviewed and offered up this information.
Well, now, I think our legislatures went ahead and given Planned Parenthood money. Is that correct?
Well, they've been twisting the arm of the Trump administration to keep everything at a status quo, and I am never... I'm going to say this on the air every time I get on the chance to denigrate Planned Parenthood. I am never going to give them a good word on the radio. I'm going to go after them every time I get a chance. I don't trust them. I think they're liars. I think they're killers. And I'm going to use that terminology.
Well, we have kind of a similar situation right here in the Acacia area. It's not Planned Parenthood, but I can't think of the name of it now.
Well, don't use the name unless you have specific facts, because I will not allow that on the air.
Okay.
All right. I'm just very careful about anything in regards to if it's not specific and it's not bona fide and guaranteed, I won't allow it on my program.
Well, this is bona fide and guaranteed. I just can't think of the name of it.
All right. Well, Keith, I appreciate your call, as always. Thank you for calling in. Thank you.
You bet.
All right. Hey, don't forget our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Always helping you get back to being you. That's right. I mean, whether you just got out of surgery or maybe you had an accident or maybe you've had a sprain or a strain, whatever the case might be. Oh, my goodness. And I'll tell you what, a lot of things going on now with back to school and going back into the sports programs and everything. They can and they will help. They've got the best of physical therapists. And, of course, they know all the exercises. They've got the hydrotherapy pool. They are the best. Please get a hold of them today. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. The number to call, 678-1191. Really good, folks. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to talk to you about Richard Blumenthal. Now, this guy, he's absolutely at the bottom of the totem pole as far as being respected as a senator. He's a Democratic senator from Connecticut. And I want to talk about him in just a moment. Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center at 924 Christian Way in Rupert. The number to call, 436-3200. Why should you have that number? Well, if you have a loved one that needs that extra help, and they can't really live by themselves, this is a wonderful place. 436-3200, and they make every effort to make Autumn Haven the best place. You know, they've invite the public to visit their facility anytime for tours, check them out, and boy, they are the only assisted living facility in Rupert. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Please remember, Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 924 Christian Way in Rupert, 436-3200. Senator Richard Blumenthal, and if that name sounds a little bit familiar, excuse me, let me kind of refresh your memory in the entirety. This guy lied, absolutely lied to his constituents and lied to America about his service in Vietnam. And he got caught. He got caught about, 2 years ago. And, everybody was railing about how he absolutely told the public, he told all of his people in politics, etc., well, I served in Vietnam, and I did. No, he did not. He lied about his service. And he's one of the guys, I think maybe he just can't stand to lay on the bottom of the barrel, which he deserves. And he's one of those people yesterday and the last couple of days, as a matter of fact, that has been going after the Trump administration and Donald Trump personally. Well, Trump fired back yesterday in a tweet, and he called Blumenthal a phony Vietnam con artist. Now, when you think about what Blumenthal had said, and you think about what Blumenthal had done as far as lying about his service in Vietnam, every single one of those words is absolutely the truth. It may be hard, it might be cold, but it's the truth. Blumenthal is a phony Vietnam con artist. But then Blumenthal and the Democrats went on television yesterday, the sympathetic liberal media. Yeah. And almost with tears in his eyes. And looking at the camera, just absolutely begging for sympathy, he said, Donald Trump is a bully. And people were buying this. It was like a great big night crawler on a hook for a bass. People were just hooking themselves. Oh, poor Richard Blumenthal. The president is a bully. Think back about the entirety of the story. Blumenthal is a liar. Blumenthal, I think, should have been removed from his senatorial seat. And what Trump did and said, a lot of people don't like the openness and the frankness and the bluntness of the president. Blumenthal, a phony Vietnam con artist, was the truth. And now this guy plays the bully card for the sympathy of the very, very liberal media. And to be very honest with you, it's working for him. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Hey, tonight is the first night of the PRCA Rodeo at the Jerome County Fair. Our own local announcer, Cade Rogge, is going to be behind the microphone, and 3 big performances starting at 7:30. PRCA Rodeo at its best tonight, tomorrow night, and Thursday night. Tonight is family night. 12 and under are free. Wednesday night, 4-H and FFA night, and Thursday night, tough enough to wear pink night at the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo. Y'all be there. Going to be a dandy time at the Jerome Fairgrounds, the Jerome PRCA Rodeo. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zap.
Hi, buddy. I said, hi, Gary. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to compliment you on what a fabulous job you did at the rodeo at the Philadelphia County Fair.
Well, how nice of you. That's very nice, Gary.
I had no idea. I was running the antique building, and then all of a sudden I'm over there having a corn dog, and I thought, well, I recognize that voice through the fence. And so I got even closer, and I sat and listened, and it was you. And what a beautiful way you handled the people and described everything, and you just kind of just had everything on an upbeat, and you're just so excellent at it. I was sorry I hadn't gotten in to watch the rodeo just to hear you, but I did hear you from the corn dog stand.
Well, actually, I tell you what, if I were you, I wouldn't have left that corn dog stand. That sounds like a great place to be. Well, thank you, Gary. That's very kind.
I wanted to compliment you on that. They just picked a winner when they got you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
Hey, Gary, I want to ask you a question, first of all. What do you think, and you're a very knowledgeable man, and you've studied cities, you've studied civilizations, and you've studied governments. In a nutshell, what is your thought or your response to the idiocy and incompetency, I think, of even having a sanctuary city in your state?
Well, it goes contrary to absolutely everything that we ever thought, and why any of my ancestors ever came here. They didn't come here to have a sanctuary city. They came here into a free country, and God forbid that we'd have to start hiding in our own country. But it's not, the sanctuary city isn't for our own citizens. It's for those who are not, and that's ridiculous.
Absolutely. You know, I wished I could have seen you. I wished I could have joined you for a corn dog. We'll have a follow-up on that later. My dear friend, take care.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir. Nice man right there. Hey, Gina, I got a question for you. Not really a question, but a statement. Do you remember yesterday we were talking about millennials not understanding credit cards?
Yes.
Listen to this. I did a little follow-up, and they took a survey with these millennials. Of course, not all of them are like this. We have some very sharp, business, astute, career-minded millennials here in this area. But, oh, boy, we have some that are dandies. Listen to this little percentage. 45% of the millennials that were asked about credit cards did not know that there were interest rates that they had to be concerned about.
You're kidding. That's kind of right there in the big print.
Yeah, 45%. And here's one that doesn't sound like a big number, but think about the numbers as how they equate to out of every 100 people. 6 out of every 100 people asked, 6%, thought that they didn't have to pay back their credit card because if they didn't make a payment, like I said yesterday, they thought it actually raised and enhanced their credit rating.
Wow, they have no idea how the system works, do they?
Yeah, but think about the severity of this. This is the generation coming up, and when you're talking 45 to almost 50% don't understand finances and the way things work, I don't know about you, sweetie, but I'm a little concerned.
Yeah, that's when we, their parents, need to start teaching them about finances.
Why did we get away from that, though? And whatever happened, I remember in schools, economics in high school, we talked about checkbooks and savings and everything else.
Yeah, it was called, life skills class.
Yeah.
We need to start teaching a life skills class, how to cook, how to sew, basic first aid, how to create a budget, balance your checkbook, manage your finances, things like that. How to write a resume.
Yeah, and none of that I know of is being covered today. If I'm wrong, correct me, but I do not, and I am not aware of that.
Maybe that's a question that we should ask Debbie on Thursday.
Yeah, because I think that this should be rammed into the school somehow so that these kids leave with some kind of an idea of how to set up a checking account or a savings account. What about credit card rates? What about the severity of making sure you don't overcharge on your card so that you're in the hole? All those things I think need to be taught.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
Because I'm a student of the problem. All right. Hey, listen, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Barry Equipment and Rental. Oh, it's not brag, it's a fact. They have all the equipment to get the job done right. There you go. And they've got 3 locations, South Lincoln and Jerome, and Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. It's not brag, and it's a fact that they know all about the equipment. They've got all the Bobcat excavators over there, all shapes and sizes. And if you're kind of timid and you go, well, gee, I got all this work to do, but I don't know how to run one. Well, they'll take you out and back. They got a great big sandbox, and they'll teach you. And then, boy, are you going to have a good time getting the work done. Barry Equipment and Rental. South Lincoln and Jerome, 159 West Highway 30, and Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls. They are there to serve you. And that is Barry Equipment and Rental. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know what I saw last night? I haven't seen one of these in a long, long time. I think that I was in college the last time I remember seeing one as it happened. I've seen replays, but I actually saw this happen in live television last night. An inside the park home run. I know a lot of you are not baseball fans. I am. I know a lot of you don't care about sports. I do. And but last night, Javi Baez of the Chicago Cubs banged one off the center field wall, and boy, did he turn the motor on. All the pistons were really going, and he went around first, headed to second, and made third. Here comes the throw, and he is a galloping like Secretariat for home plate, and just slid in under the tag for an inside-the-park home run. And I was pretty doggone impressed about that. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Al Gore's movie. I gotta tell you this. Al Gore has a new movie about climate change and how all of us are either going to be treading water or all of us are going to be burning up or all of this, you know. He made this new movie, kind of a sequel, you know, the new climate movie. Well, he flew film crews, his own personal film crews, all over the world, and I have no idea how many gallons and gallons and gallons of jet fuel were used up in all this flying around the globe and everything to get these shots for this movie. Well, the movie opened up in theaters, and it went boink. Nobody showed up. Nobody showed up to watch his movie. It bombed out at the box office, and I think, what did they say yesterday? Out of all the population in the United States, when it opened up at various theater locations, totally, I heard through one source that only about 1 million people showed up to watch that movie. Now, that's not very many people for a film premiere. Al, you bombed again. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, give me a call. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I am going to do a weather forecast, and then come on, get on the line and give me a call. And the weather brought to you by Dr. Christine Pickup and Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. You know, true hearing health care needs to include the tools and the techniques that enhance communication for you and your loved ones. And I urge you to call for a hearing screening at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. The number to call for an appointment, 312-0957. Right now, whether it's live or whether it's Memorex, here's Gina.
It is going to be smoky again for today. We are still in that air quality alert due to all of the smoke. So if you have upper respiratory issues, please make note of that and keep your outdoor time limited. We are looking at partly cloudy skies for today, high of 85, slightly breezy. Tonight the smoke's going to stick around, low 57. Tomorrow still smoky, high of 86. Scattered rain showers and thunderstorms expected for early tomorrow evening with a low of 57. Then more rain showers and thunderstorms expected for Thursday, high of 86. Right now it's 64.
64. Oh, my goodness, you're on the climb.
Yeah.
Okay, it was nice yesterday afternoon.
It was beautiful yesterday afternoon.
Yes, it was. Hey, by the way, the weather brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup, and they're located right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room. Number to call, 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Calls are appreciated this morning, and give me a jingle on the landline at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know what, Bernie Sanders, he just won't go away. Bernie, old, wild, frizzy-haired Bernie, you know, he kind of reminds you of a weird uncle that you hope doesn't come to the birthday party or whatever. But Bernie Sanders is publishing a book. It's a guide for teenagers on political revolution. Oh, this is great. This is wonderful. We've got Bernie Sanders writing a book about political revolution. And this is just what our kids need today, is more of Bernie Sanders and his wild-haired schemes. And I hope that it's not a pamphlet or a kind of a here's how to, like what they're using in Venezuela. Oh my goodness, what a mess down in Venezuela. Bernie Sanders with a guide for teenagers on political revolution. What are your thoughts on this, caller? I mean, my goodness, we've got the United States of America, the greatest country ever in the history of the world, being torn apart, picked apart, cut apart by nincompoops like Bernie Sanders. I'll go back to Richard Blumenthal, many on the Democratic left. I mean, Chuck Schumer, Hillary. Why? Why are they so bent on destroying something that is so well put together, a constitution that is unequaled anywhere else in the world ever, and they want to destroy it? Why? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. I don't know if you heard about this next story, but there is a big diversity debate going on in Silicon Valley. And a Google engineer wrote an online manifesto about who gets promoted and who doesn't get promoted, etc. Well, the liberal left in this country, they want to push for all the minority positions to be filled by minority races and really pushing for women in company tech jobs, etc., as managers and bosses, etc. But my question to you, I'm going to ask Gina this question because she is, we'll take the call and then I'll get back to this. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Hello there, my friend.
I forgot what I was going to talk to you about.
Well, I tell you what we can talk about is the subject that I just started into. Do you think, and I'm going to ask you this question, do you think that because they may be a woman or because they may be of some minority, that those people working for a business should have preferential treatment possibly for that position over white males just because of their minority status?
Nope.
Why?
What happened to equal rights?
What happened to judging people on their merits for the position?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Equal rights. I mean, the scale needs to be level. It does not need to be tipped in some direction because there are fewer of you at that business than there are of others.
Well, let's look at it this way. And I'm not trying to toot her horn. I'm not trying to build her up in this conversation. I'm just being openly honest. Gina Jameson over at our station has done an outstanding job of running the day-by-day activities of K-Bar and Cat Country. I absolutely admire the way she gets the job done. So, if you're looking for somebody that's going to get that job done and be number one for that job, who are you going to pick? You're going to pick her, right?
Yeah.
All right. But in other circumstances and instances, whatever happened to the best person, the most qualified, and to heck with all the diversity and the ethnicity and the color of your skin or what group you belong to? This is insane.
It is. You're setting them up to fail. If they're not qualified for the job, they won't be able to do the job.
Yeah.
It don't matter what gender, what you call yourself, or what color your skin is. If they have to lower the standards for you to get the job, you're not going to succeed.
Isn't it really, when you take people that are unqualified and you're putting them into a position of management and leadership where they are unqualified, I'm going to come out and say that I feel it's reverse discrimination because it's putting unqualified candidates into certain job capabilities.
Yes, just like the federal government, state government.
Oh, boy, that's the truth.
There's a saying that you rise to your level of incompetency, and that's where you say.
Well, this thing is going to get bigger and more of a problem. And this diversity debate is going to be kind of like a cancer that's going to go all across this country. Google is involved in it, the company Google. And many of the people have sided with this guy that kind of blew the whistle on what they were doing. But quite frankly, any time in any business, if somebody or someone is elevated to a position of management higher just because of their skin color and what minority group they belong to, we're in a lot of trouble.
Yes, we are. And that radio station that, brought that out and said it was such a good thing Google did, and then the guy last night was saying that there was 78 or 80% of the comments about it was against that radio station.
Yeah. Listen, I got to read this to you because this is about this debate, and I think this is a lie. I've been trying to find more facts on this, and I think it is a lie. I think it's a falsehood. Now listen to this. A recent study on elementary school students, now remember that, elementary school students, shows dominant players, in this case white males, feel threatened when everyone is treated equally. Doug, how many elementary white males, thinking back to when you were in elementary school, felt threatened when everyone is treated equally?
Well, it's been a long time ago, like for you, but I
just think that's phony.
Hey, I lost my marbles to that guy. How can I win some of them back?
Yeah, when you sit there and you start saying that elementary students are scared or feel threatened when everyone is treated equally, I dare say I don't think there's anybody in elementary school that even thinks that way or lets their mind wander to, we're all being treated equally, so me as a white male, I feel like I'm threatened. Give me a break. I think this is just total left liberal garbage.
Well, I'd like to talk to the person that come up with that survey, and I'd like to talk to the school where he done that survey. I think it's bovine droppings what he come up with. I don't even think it happened.
Well, I just will go back, and I know some people are going to be upset about this, but I don't care if you're purple. I don't care if you're green. I don't care what minority you're from. When I have somebody come into my office and ask for a job, I look at the best qualified person, and I don't care if they're polka dot. The best qualified is going to get the job. To heck with diversity.
Yes, and just back in my history, I used to work for a chemical company many, many years ago. And I was kind of the foreman over the warehouse, track inventory and stuff. And we needed to hire a delivery guy. And this guy come in, he had hair down past his shoulders, scraggly beard, and I talked to him for a little bit. And the guy was sharp. So I hired him. And my boss got mad at me. But I told the guy, I says, hey, you're going to have to clean up a little bit. I says, you can't be coming to work like that. Oh, no problem. Well, he come to work, and he was one of the best employees, and he got promoted up into management over the area. And I hired that guy.
Yep. I just...
The boss was mad because of his looks.
You cannot run a business today. You can't do anything today based on skin color, diversity, and minority groups. You will fail every which way. You will never be successful. And this garbage of saying, well, we've got to appoint 6 women as membership leaders. We've got to appoint these skin colors as heads of these departments. That's not going to build your business. All that's going to do is create a complete chaos inside your business.
That's a fact. And I've seen a video from Prager University talking about lowering the standards at universities to let blacks in.
Yeah.
And this was a black lady that was talking about it. And she says, you're just setting them up to fail. If they can't qualify to get in on their own merit, lowering the standards is just setting them up to fail.
Amen. I got to do a commercial and go to the news. Doug, thanks much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
God God bless.
Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And they've got a tagline for this month that's really true. Get where you're going this summer. That's right, with the safest of tires, and they have the best and safest of tires. And I urge you to stop in and see them for your cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, camp trailers, everything. Please get where you're going this summer, and then come safely home. They've got all the tires. They've got the best in brake service with highly trained brake technicians, front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, everything with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Absolutely the best service to you. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, our number 1 sponsor of Zeb at the Ranch. Thank you so much. Coming up next hour, Kelsey Brizendine with the BLM talking about fires. And then at 9:30, don't miss Ed Brodow talking about the nincompoops in California trying to have a Cal exit from the United States. Don't miss it. We'll be back with much more. Zeb at the Ranch, and now over to our main studios. Oh, here we go. Hour number 2 on a Tuesday, August the 8th already. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services.
The canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Way Services.
Oh, I'm telling you, Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. They are the commercial or industrial waste handlers, and they're very loyal to the community and the people that they serve. If you need to get on the route service and have your garbage picked up, call them today. They are the best. 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Thank you very much. Hey, too, I know somebody else that's ready to serve you, and that's our friends over at Ark Animal Hospital, 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. And Dr. Bill and the whole crew, they have been voted Minnecacha's best veterinary hospital for multiple times. Boy, they just really take care of your pets and your animals. So be sure and give them a call at 678-1177. That number again, 678-1177. Mixed animal practice, meaning big or small, they love them all. Ark Animal Hospital in Heyburn, 678-1177. And before we have our guest on the phone, I also want to remind you about Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. Now, please remember that number. Joel Heward, manager, family, staff, all of these folks, they're when you need them. When there's the passing of a loved one, believe me, everybody is just absolutely, they don't know what to do in a short period of time. Well, just call that number, Hanson Mortuary, 436-5636. They can help, they will help with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Well, right now, we're going to go to our next guest, and I thank very much this lovely lady for coming on our program this morning because it's very time-fitting for what's going on. Kelsey Brizendine with the Bureau of Land Management. Good morning. How are you?
I've tried both her office phone number and her cell phone number. She's not answering.
Why?
Great question.
Would you keep trying for me?
You betcha.
I called her yesterday and reminded her of this, and I certainly hope she's available. If not, Why not? Please give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. A lot of fires. Deanne, if you could come in here and also help, I'd appreciate that. Trying to run Kelsey down, if you would, please. I'd appreciate that. And we're going to try to get an update from her momentarily. When somebody tells me they're going to be at their phone and available on a live radio talk show that goes all over the United States and, for that matter, the world, I depend on that. And so we're going to try to get her down on the phone in just a few minutes. While I have a moment, I also want to acknowledge, while I'm waiting, give me a call and we'll talk about any subject you want to until we finally get a hold of her. I want to remind you about all the Burley merchants that are welcoming you to the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo this year. And they include Dot Foods, 1541 West 27th Street in Burley. And Dot Foods, as you know, is America's leading food redistributor. They offer over 70,000 products from 700 food industry manufacturers all over the United States. Dot Foods, thank you for what you do in Burley. And Golden Valley Warehouse, 468 West, 1000 South of Burley. I'm telling you what, these people are so easy to work with and amenable. We appreciate them. And don't forget, the staff and the owners want to thank all of their customers for 30 years of support and friendly staff, and they can custom clean seed if you prefer. Golden Valley Warehouse, inviting you to the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo. Last but not least, Kelly's Bearing Supply, 1407 East Main Street in Burley. And they've got a slogan I love. You'll know where you're at when you get your bearings at Kelly's. Stop in and see Zach and Brett and the whole crew at Kelly's Bearing Supply. Super nice people. 1407 East Main in Burley. Caller, good morning. You are on the air.
Good morning. Just a little quick update on our conversation yesterday. I've talked to several people. I talked to Mr. Wood. He's going to be looking into it. He hasn't got back with me yet. But I talked to Crapo's office in Twin. And there was one thing the young lady told me that I just about come out of my boots and crawled through the phone to slap her. She said, well, we can't really afford to take care of everybody because, you know, our national debt is just going out of. And I'm going, what? You promised these people we would take care of them, and now we can't because of our national debt, because the politicians have spent way beyond their means borrowing, and now she's going to throw that in my face.
You know, and Doug, I'm walking a tight line here because I was not privy to that conversation, but I can tell you this, and I think you're going to agree with me, that whenever you call a senator or a congressman's office, regardless of the satellite offices that they have around the state, you must realize, of course, that some of them are not highly trained into what to say during various conversations on various topics. And I agree with you that that was probably an inappropriate thing to say, but I don't judge, and I'm careful how I say this, I don't judge the senator or the congressman for perhaps a faux pas that was said by somebody running the desk.
No, I'm not judging Mr. Crapo for that. I'm just saying this young lady, what she said was just, it was outrageous.
Yeah.
But I'm keeping on working on it. Anybody out there's got any information can get a hold of me. I'd appreciate it.
Well, I sent you an email this morning. I didn't send it to you. My wife did. I'm not smart enough to send emails. But she sent you an email that I had written up this morning. And if you get a chance, you might want to call me after the program. And I've got a little bit more information, not much, for you to consider.
Right.
All right, buddy.
And I understand personal responsibility. We need to take care of ourselves. But,
absolutely.
It sounds like Gina's got somebody on the phone for you.
I hope it's my guest, and so we'll say, hello, Kelsey, where art thou?
Hi.
You evidently must have overlooked the fact that I was going to be calling you at 9:06 this morning to get an update on our fires, and if you would do so, I'd certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
All
Sorry
right.
about that. We had a minor issue that needed to be handled.
Well, let's hear a little bit of the status, Kelsey. What's going on with our fires in Magic Valley primarily and around the state? How bad is the situation this morning as we speak?
So currently, the Twin Falls District, the Mammoth Fire is contained. Things are looking really good out there. They're actually starting to release resources. And they're having an estimated control time of Thursday at 10 o'clock. And then our shoestring fire is also been contained, and it's looking really good. There's no more active fire on it, and they are looking to control it Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
Now, when you say contain, I want more of a definition of what do you mean? I mean, are they going to have it circled, like circling the wagons, and it's not going to be an encroachment on any future acreage to be burned up? What do you mean by contained?
Yep, contained means that the fire is no longer going to grow. It has completely been mopped up all the way around it. There's no more active fire. There's no chance of it progressing any farther.
On these fires, like you mentioned the Mammoth Fire, now give us the locations of where these fires are, so I know a lot of people in the audience are concerned about friends, neighbors, relatives, etc., that might live near or by some of these fires.
So the Mammoth Fire was started off of Highway 75 near mile marker 82 on the east side of the highway, and it has burned all the way to the Peekaboo Desert Road.
Wow.
But it, like I said, it's fully contained now. There is no more active fire on it. And the Shoestring Road, or the Shoestring Fire, started 6 miles north of Wendell off of the highway. And it actually burned all the way to Highway 93 and all the way north to Highway 26.
Oh,
Sorry,
my.
46.
What?
And the road between Wendell and Gooding and Shoshone. And that fire is also fully contained. That has no more active flame on it, so there is no more concern there either.
Kelsey, on these fires, were any of these fires a detriment to buildings, farms, ranches, houses, etc.?
So the Shoestring Fire had some concern, so we had pre-positioned the rural fire department at structures, but that was just as a precautionary measure. There was no structures lost and no structures damaged. Unfortunately, on the Mammoth Cave Fire, there was one primary residence that was lost and 2 additional secondary structures that were lost.
Well, what happens in that case with the fire? I mean, I'm certainly hoping and praying that they had insurance and everything, but my goodness, that must have been devastating for these families.
You know, it's never something we want to see. It's never something that anybody ever hopes to have happen. When the Mammoth Cave Fire started, it was, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, and the winds were blowing so incredibly hard. We had wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour. And when you have conditions like that, there's really not much you can do. The fire moves so fast, it's basically like a wall of flame moving across the desert.
Wow.
And our number one priority always is firefighter and public safety.
Right.
We can't replace our firefighters. We can't replace a person. So, we always want to make sure that our guys are as safe as they possibly can be when they're fighting these fires. And when you're faced with conditions like that, there's not much they can do. They do everything they can. They try to do as much structure protection as they can. But, when that happens, there's just not a lot that they can do about that.
Kelsey, let me ask you this. Has it been ascertained how these fires started? Was it a careless throwing out of a cigarette butt or something? I mean, did they have any idea?
We do know that they were both human-caused fires, but the actual nature of how they were caused is undetermined at this point.
Man, oh man. Now, let me ask you this question. I've heard about this in other areas. Will there, if they can determine who and why, will there be prosecution for anybody careless enough to start one of these fires?
We do have the ability to fine individuals for starting wildfires, and the extent of that will depend on the extent of the fire determining whether or not they knowingly knew what they were doing was going to cause a wildfire. So, there definitely is the possibility there for sure.
Kelsey, what about the status today? I don't think we're going to be out of this fire season for quite some time. You're the expert on this, you tell me. But what kind of a restriction period are we in right now?
So we are in probably the peak of fire season. I would say we probably have up to 6 weeks left before fire season really tapers off. Starting on Monday the 14th, we are going into Stage 1 fire restrictions across the whole Twin Falls District area. All BLM and IDL lands managed by the Twin Falls District will be under fire restrictions starting Monday the 14th.
Now, please, for my audience and myself, our education, when you say Stage 1, what does that mean?
So Stage 1 restrictions prohibit the following acts on state and federally managed land, protected lands, roads, or trails. So basically, any public land that is managed by the state or the BLM, you're only allowed to have campfires as a designated sponsored rec site that has an established metal or concrete fire ring. No smoking outside of vehicles or buildings. You can use propane camp stoves, but they need to be on top of a table or metal surface, not directly on the ground. Mm-hmm. We are encouraging people to stay on trails, to not go off-roading, to not go cross-country, to make sure that, they're cleaning out underneath those vehicles, to make sure that there isn't any buildup underneath. The biggest thing for people to remember is that if you're going to have a campfire, it needs to be at a campfire or at a campsite that is sponsored and maintained by a certain facility, like campsites that are established, not when you just go out and find a great spot by the lake or whatever. It needs to be in a campsite that is established and maintained by someone, whether it's private or federally funded. And if the campfire ring does not have a metal or concrete fire ring already there, then you cannot have a campfire.
Okay. Kelsey, I like to go four-wheeling. I mean, I enjoy getting up in the hills away from the maddening crowd, if you will. But a lot of the trails have some grass buildup in the center where it goes between your tires, etc. What kind of danger factor is there from a four-wheeler starting a fire like that?
So there actually is a fairly high danger factor there because the underside of that four-wheeler gets really, really hot. If you touched it, it would burn you. So, you need three things to start a fire. You need oxygen, you need heat, and you need fuel. And you've got all three of those in that case, where you've got the fuel build up underneath your vehicle. Because as you drive over that, I'm sure you've seen underneath your vehicle all kinds of grass and sticks and brush stuck up underneath that four-wheeler. So there's your fuel. The underside of that four-wheeler is extremely hot. There's your heat, and of course you've got oxygen. So you really have everything you need to accidentally start a fire. So really the best bet is to stay off of those trails that look like they might have been overgrown. The thing we're experiencing this year is we have a higher fuel loading. The fuel is dry, and it's not taking much to start these fires. It's really only taking one minor spark. So it's better to be safe than sorry and actually start something on fire.
Kelsey, here's another aspect of that. If you're up in the hills and you're hiking or you're four-wheeling or camping and all of a sudden, poof, you see some smoke, what is your advice for the campers, hikers, four-wheelers? My advice would be to get the heck out of Dodge City and get away from there as fast as possible. But what's your professional advice?
That's exactly what you need to do. If you see a wildfire or you accidentally start one, your safety is the number one priority. So get out of there, get to a safe spot, and report it to someone. If it was an accident, it was an accident. But it is better to get away from that area and make sure that you're in a safe place and contact us, contact the 911, contact the local fire station nearby. Let them know what has happened, but also stick around because we're going to have some questions, especially if you were just happening to be in the area and saw the wildfire start. We're going to have some questions just to make sure that we know what's going on and make sure there's no one else in the area. We don't need to go in and look to make sure there's other people who need to be, evacuated. So that's really the best bet. Don't try and engage with the fire. Don't try and put it out yourself. Contact us. We're trained. We're professionals. We can handle it. And we don't want anybody to get burned or worse, killed because of that.
Okay, now, in the late afternoons here during the month of August, naturally, we see the buildup of clouds and the very strong potential of thunderstorms. It's not really the safest place to be up in those hills with lightning strikes and thunderstorms, and it's pretty hard sometimes to outrun a fire after a lightning strike. What are your thoughts on that?
It's very true. It's very true. We're definitely never going to tell people that they can't enjoy our great outdoors. That's the best part about living in Idaho, is having access to all of those things. The biggest thing we tell people is just be aware of your surroundings. Pay attention to what the weather's doing. Pay attention to that little, indicator on the back of your neck that says something feels weird or something isn't right. Just be very aware. We call it situational awareness. You're aware of the situation around you and you're paying attention. And if you're feeling even the slightest bit uncomfortable, don't wait it out. Just head back to your campsite, head back home. It's better safe than sorry. That's really the key message there, is just pay attention to your surroundings, pay attention to what's going on. If you smell smoke, maybe cut your trip short or your hike short and head out.
Yeah. Kelsey, now, of course, we all pray for a lot of moisture, a lot of snowpack during the fall and winter for the next spring to provide us with the grass, etc. But it's kind of a double-edged sword. We get the grass, and then we've got the fire danger, and it's kind of like leaning away from a right cross and hitting into a left hook. I mean, really, it's hard to win, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does seem like that sometimes. This is a pretty average fire year for us. We're not experiencing any more fires than we normally do. The difference is the last few years have been very calm, thankfully, and we haven't had a lot of fires. So I think that's why this seems like it's a lot more of a heavy fire load than we've had in the past. But, it's just kind of one of those things. Mother Nature has a mind of her own. She kind of does her own thing, and we just try to do our best to keep up.
Kelsey, you did an outstanding job this morning, and I'd like to, I hope I don't have to call you again. I hope we don't have any other fires, but you're really good at what you do. Now, let me ask you one final question, short answer. We've got real fire danger here in Magic Valley, naturally, but is the entire state really suffering underneath the same fire danger?
Certain areas definitely are, due to that moisture in the mountains. They're not experiencing as high of a fire danger as we are, because those trees are able to hold that moisture a lot longer than, say, grass is. But it's definitely something to be aware of no matter where you are in Idaho.
Well, I want to thank you, Kelsey Brizendine, and notice I said the name right, and on behalf of the BLM, God bless you, and thanks for being on the program this morning.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care. Boy, she was good and very informative on the fire situation, and I thank her, Kelsey Brizendine, with the BLM. Thank you very much. I know some people that absolutely want you to enjoy the outdoors that we've been talking about and get away from the maddening crowd, and that's our friends at Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Oh, my. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. And, we've been talking about the watercraft, but I want to stress right now, looking towards the fall and, of course, the hunting and everything, your four-wheelers, your side-by-sides, they've got a complete showroom full of these great fun-filled events for you. Oh, and all the accessories, too. And a super service department that can keep you running. Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. You stop over because it is true. This is where the fun is sold. And also over on that same Highway 24 going into Rupert, right there on that first curve, by golly, there's our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, the insurance professionals. And when you think about life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, they are dedicated and responsive to your needs, and very thoughtful and caring too. For you, your family, your business, they are the professionals. So please make an appointment today. Call their number at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424, and that is Cameron and Siemens Insurance in Rupert. Really good folks. In just a minute, I'm going to have a gentleman that's been on my program many, many times already this year, and I'm looking forward to having him back, and that's Mr. Ed Brodow, so stand by. We're going to be talking about the insanity that's going on down in California with a potential Cal exit. They want to get out of the United States. Not all of them, but some crackpots and weirdos. We'll have that on just a minute. Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center at 924 Christian Way in Rupert, the only locally owned and operated assisted living facility in the Mini-Cassia area. And believe me, they are able to provide more one-on-one care. And they invite you to stop into the facility anytime and check them out. They make every effort to make sure Autumn Haven is the best place. They've got a motto that really is true. They're small compared to some, but with a bigger heart than most. Please remember Autumn Haven Assisted Living Center, 924 Christian Way in Rupert, 436-3200. Right now, let's say good morning to this gentleman and welcome him back to the program. He is USMC retired, author of a brand new book, Tyranny of the Minority, How the Left is Destroying America. Mr. Ed Brodow, how are you, sir?
I am just terrific. How are you?
If I was any better, I couldn't stand it, Ed. I got to ask you, what in the world? I had this story on my program about 10 days ago after I'd watched and listened and took notes to some of the so-called spokesmen for the state of California that want to have petitions signed to leave the United States of America. With your expertise, would you please fill in the blanks and tell us about these nitwits down there in the Golden State?
Sure. What you have to understand, by the way, this is all clarified in my book, Tyranny of the Minority. I explain the whole thing. These are people that don't like the United States. They don't like our country. They don't like freedom of speech. They don't like having private property. They don't believe in private property. They believe in redistributing income. They see themselves as being compassionate, which means allowing anybody that wants to come into the country to come into the country with no consequences. So we have all these sanctuary cities, disrespect for the law, but from their point of view, it's their socialist utopia. That's what they want, a socialist utopia. But in reality is we know that every time there's been a socialist utopia, it winds up the way Venezuela is right now. So this whole idea of California seceding from the United States is just a pipe dream in the minds of these people who are deluded.
You know, Ed, they would need, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they would need over about 500,000 signatures to put the motion of Cal exit on the ballot. What do you think about the possibility of getting over 500,000 people that are dumb enough to try to sign this?
Well, in California, it's very possible. Remember, we have 40 million people here. Now, the thing to keep in mind, I live in California. I am a conservative Republican. There are millions and millions of people like me who are completely discounted by these liberals. They act like we don't exist. They could give a damn about us. But there are a lot of them, and it's very possible that they will get the signatures. But getting the signatures and getting on the ballot doesn't mean it's going to happen. My crystal ball says it will never happen. But I've been wrong before.
Ed, one of the things I would say about California, and you living there, I want you to correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I've rodeoed all over that state of California, and I think I know the state fairly well. And when you go down Highway 99 to Larry, all the way down to Bakersfield, you're talking about very conservative area. You're talking about people that have their head on straight and they know what's best for the country and the state. But it's the pockets of Sacramento, San Francisco, and L.A. that really squash all the common sense people in the rest of the state of California. Would you agree?
Yes, I would. I would agree. The problem, though, is that the big population centers have the other areas outweighed. They've got, there's so many of them. And the more, they want to give the right to vote now to illegal aliens. I mean, that would clinch it for them. Then all of the conservatives in the state would be out of luck. And we may be out of luck now. I don't know. What I'm worried about, the state right now is out of money because it is so badly run, which is part of the irony. I mean, they want to turn a state that doesn't function into a country that doesn't function. But my concern is that in order to pay for all of the programs that they want to put into effect, where are they going to get the money from? A lot of affluent people are leaving the state, so what they're going to have to do is, they've already started. They just raised the gasoline taxes, other taxes that, we pay almost 10% sales tax. It's getting to be totally ridiculous. You go to San Francisco, they just tacked another 3% on them. You go to a restaurant, 3% to pay for the health care for the employees. They're always adding. And, eventually people are going to say, the hell with this. I don't want to pay for this, and they're going to move.
Well, that brings me to my next point. When I watched one of the spokespeople that was on television for this, and this guy was not a good spokesperson. He had the combined IQ of a box of rocks as far as trying to answer some of the questions. But he basically made the inference that the people that are involved in the Cal exit, they didn't care if they kept the middle class or not. They would welcome in all the low-scale jobs, and it would be almost like a serf and serfdom type society in California. What's the matter with these people? I mean, naturally we need the middle class.
I saw that interview. He said, good, let the middle class leave. We'll replace them with immigrants. It is so divorced from reality that it's pathetic. It's really pathetic. But we have this movement all over the United States right now. There is a strong movement by the left because, as I said, they hate the United States. They see this country as an oppressor, a country that oppresses its minorities, and a country that has lost its soul. I mean, it's totally ridiculous, but that's how they see it.
And we have
you find it popping up mostly in large population centers where they have a lot of minority votes. And they're trying to appeal to the minorities, the Democrats. The irony is that wherever Democrats run things, they screw it up completely, especially for the minorities.
Absolutely.
So there's no logic to any of it.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question for you, Ed. Stand by, and if you have trouble hearing it, I'll paraphrase it for you. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air. Quickly, go ahead. I can't hear you, caller. We need to turn the caller up, please.
Hello.
Well, we're not getting the call. Gina, for some reason, he's not coming through the board.
He's not here. He just needs to start talking.
Hello there.
There he goes. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I got a comment on this California thing. Go ahead and let them do it. But when you go ahead and let them do it, chop their water off. They're getting their water from us. Thank you very much.
All right. Ed, would you respond to the caller, please?
Well, I mean, it's funny, but it's not really funny. The whole idea of California seceding is not funny. When it comes down to it, it's really pathetic. And to encourage this is a big mistake. And what I think that conservatives tend to be very, very quiet. Liberals are noisy. They're out there and they'll tell you what they think. Conservatives tend to be reticent about expressing their opinions. and we have to stop doing that. We got to get out there and express our opinions and give the arguments, because the arguments in favor of seceding are not good arguments. So people like this caller and yourself and Misa, we have to be more outspoken and let the world know that there is a substantial conservative presence in California, and that not everybody in the state is out of their mind.
You know, now, Ed, I was thinking myself the other day after I saw that interview, and the mechanics of trying to set up a leaving the United States for California. What about our military bases? What about the interstate system and the crossing of traffic into California and out of California? What about the fact that they have the San Joaquin Valley, which is the breadbasket to the world with all the agriculture? I mean, there's so many questions of stupidity that need to be answered when these people are talking about leaving the United States. Do they really understand the ramifications?
Well, look at who you're dealing with. Look at who we have in Sacramento in our legislature. Look at who we elect to Congress. Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi. These people are delusional. Absolutely delusional. I mean, it seems hard to believe, but it's true. They are delusional. And as I said, the practicality is not there. There's no practicality to this idea. But because these people are delusional and they are hoping to have a socialist paradise here, they think they can get away with it.
When you say socialist paradise, the first thing that shot into my mind was a picture of wild, frizzy-haired Bernie Sanders leading the charge to be the president of California. And that would solidify the fact that it's a land of kooks and nuts in the major metropolitan areas. But really, we laugh about this, like you said earlier, and you said it is feasible that they can get the 500,000 or better signatures necessary. What then? If it goes on the ballot and you have the larger metropolitan areas that might go for it, holy smokes, look at the civil turmoil from Red Bluff, California to Bakersfield to Tulare. I mean, you could have a civil war in the state of California.
Well, just because it gets on the ballot doesn't mean it's going to be voted in. And even if they vote for it, you know, there are so many other requirements that have to be fulfilled before you can secede from the United States. The courts will put their 2 cents in. The federal government will put their 2 cents in. That's why I don't think, as a practical matter, I don't think we need to worry about it. But what worries me is that there are just so many people in this state who want to give away everything that I have and give it to somebody else who hasn't worked for it. And that's the basic concept, and I abhor that concept. That concept is it's un-American. It goes against all of the values that we consider to be American values. But there is a huge movement in this country, led by the Democratic Party and the mainstream media, that are pushing for this sort of thing. The very fact that you had someone like Bernie Sanders running for president, there are a lot of people that would like to elect him. I would like to elect him to be in a rubber room. I think he's nuts. But a lot of people like him. A lot of people like Hillary Clinton. If Hillary Clinton had been elected, this would be a very, very different country right now. And I just give thanks for the fact that we have Donald Trump, because he's the right man at the right time. We needed someone like Donald Trump to turn the country's direction, redirect the country back in the right direction after 8 years of destruction by Obama.
Absolutely.
There was a man who hated this country and did everything he could to bring us down. And it's still, when I say it, I can't believe that a U.S. president would do that. But I explain it all in my book. I mean, it's really, we're dealing with, this is a very critical point in our history. And we've got to, fortunately, we have a Republican president, we have a Republican Congress, and we've got to wrest control away from these crazies.
We have another caller with a question, Ed. Caller, quickly, go ahead, you're on the air.
I was kind of curious. I just tuned in and caught that California is wanting to secede. I kind of
of wondered how that could happen when they have so many people on welfare and so many federal benefits and stuff. So if they got cut off, they would die, I think, wouldn't they?
We'll have Ed talk about that. Ed, go ahead and answer the caller, please.
I'm sorry, could you translate that? I didn't hear
He
that.
basically said, how in the world could they think about succession from the United States of America when they have so many people on federal welfare payments? How would they ever afford to take them off and wean them from the system?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, that the state is in a fiscal disaster. They can't pay for what we've got now. They have no concept of fiscal responsibility. That's why I think it's all a delusion. And the caller is absolutely right. How are they going to pay for it? They can't pay. They can't pay for the crazy crap that's going on right now. If they turn this state into a country, into a socialist-leaning country, it would fall apart of its own weight.
Ed, when you look at the entirety of the state of California, and I've got a lot of good friends down in California. I love the state. It's a beautiful state. What is it going to take for conservative values and people of the conservative nature to rise up in a rebellion, a legal rebellion, against the Pelosi's, against the Maxine Waters, and absolutely get a groundswell movement against the stupidity that's going on in Sacramento?
Well, I already told you what needs to happen. Conservatives who tend to be very reticent to express their opinions need to get out there and express themselves and let the public know how they feel and be as vocal as people are on the other side of the aisle. We need to get out there and let the world know that we're here. Let them know what we think, and that's the only way. We have to wrest control. The reason that you've got Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters is because these people are very, very active. They're out there. They're in your face. So we have to respond to that by getting out there ourselves and being more proactive. That's the answer, in my opinion.
Now, in your book, Tyranny of the Minority, I love that title because it really, in very few words, sums up the problem that we have in this country today. The tyranny of the minority, how the left is destroying America. Did you, Ed Brodow, ever feel 10 years ago that this country would be in the shape it is in 2017?
Never. I was just talking about that yesterday with a friend of mine. I was never a very political person. I've only recently become a political person and started writing books about this because I am so angry at what's taking place. And that's my part. I'm doing my part by writing books and letting it so that people can understand what's really going on, because you don't hear it in the media unless you listen to Fox. The mainstream media is not telling us what's really going on. And that is a tragedy, because we've lost our media. The election of Donald Trump, however, indicates that there is a groundswell in this country of people who are fed up with all this garbage. So there's hope. There's a tremendous amount of hope. And I think that what we're going to see in the next 8 years, and I assume that Donald Trump will be reelected, we're going to see the whole pendulum swings, because it all starts at the top. When you had someone like Barack Obama at the top, all of that liberal progressive thinking filtered down, and disrespect for the rule of law. You began to see more and more riots, and that was because Obama set the tone. Well, now Donald Trump is setting a very different tone, and the U.S. in 7 or 8 years from now is going to be very, very different than it is today.
Absolutely.
I think it's going to be different in a better way. I think that we'll get back to sanity in this country.
We have another caller, and it's the last call. I'm running out of time in the segment. Caller, you're on the air, please.
Yes, good morning, Zeb and guest. How dangerous would you consider the overpopulation by these foreigners who are pouring into our country and the dangers that they bring upon us?
That's a good question. Ed,
Good question. I think it's very dangerous. I think that all we have to do is look at what's going on in Europe right now. Europe, as we know it, is being destroyed because their leaders decided to open the borders to anybody that wanted to come in. And look who's coming in. You know, all these people who are coming in don't share Western values. They want to destroy our countries. They want to, they'll all go on welfare. And look at Germany. Germany is a great example. The strongest country in Europe is being destroyed by this. So it's of the essence that we learn from that example and that we don't repeat the same mistake, because we're the last hope. We're really the last hope for Western civilization.
That's exactly true.
We have to protect our borders. We are not in a position where we can take care of everybody in the whole world. We got to start taking care of ourselves for a change, and that's what Donald Trump is trying to say, and I support him in that. It's got to be America first, and we've got to protect ourselves and protect our borders.
Well, I'll tell you what, United States Marine Corps retired author of the brand new book, Tyranny of the Minority, How the Left is Destroying America, Mr. Ed Brodow. Ed, God bless you, man. Thanks for coming back on the program, and come back soon. We enjoy having you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Very interesting gentleman and spot on talking about the... I'm laughing, but it's not funny. The idiocy and incompetency of these people that want to try to exit the Cal exit from the United States of America. I don't think they've thought past their shoelaces. Ay, 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 as my grandmother used to say, ay, 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 ay. Oh, boy. Hey, let's have the weather forecast right now, and it's brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. CPAs providing accounting services to the Mini-Cassia area and beyond for well over 50 years. The best of retirement planning and bookkeeping services, tax return preparation, tax planning, and so much more. They've got 2 offices to serve you, one in Burley and one in Rupert. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And now, here's the weather.
Well, we are still in that, the air quality alert due to all of the smoke in the area because of the wildfires. Hopefully that's going to be clearing out as they get all of the wildfires contained. We are looking at isolated thunderstorms this afternoon, about a 20% chance. High of 85 tonight. We're looking at low 57 tomorrow. Areas of smoke, high of 86. For tomorrow, early evening, scattered rain showers and thunderstorms are a possibility. Low right near 57, and then for Thursday, more isolated thunderstorms in the forecast with a high of 86. Right now, we're sitting at 72.
All right, Gina, thank you. And the weather brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, CPAs. And they can really help you, your family, your business, and people starting a business, partnership, or a corporation, and maybe business owners that want to hire more employees. They've got the answers to your questions. Please give them a call or stop in. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, CPAs in Burley and Rupert. Really good people. The Jerome County Fair. I want to remind you about the Jerome County Fair. Now, they are off and running at the Jerome County Fair over in Jerome at the fairgrounds. And tonight, Tuesday the 8th, is the first performance of their PRCA rodeo that's going to run for 3 nights. Tonight, tomorrow night, and Thursday night. And, of course, tonight is family night, 12 and under, free. And tomorrow night, Wednesday night, they're going to salute the 4-H and FFA night. And then on Thursday, don't forget, they're going to have Tough Enough to Wear Pig Night. All of this, including all the different great fair activities for your 2017 Jerome County Fair and Rodeo at the Jerome County Fairgrounds. Everybody be there. Going to be a lot of fun. Let's see. Gina, is the smoke over in Rupert at the station, is it kind of dissipated a little bit? I can see a little bit further out my window this morning than I could yesterday at this time.
It's yes and no. I mean, it doesn't seem as thick as it was yesterday, but I'm looking out the window, And I can see the outlying trees over there by Amalgamated, and you know, they're really hazy. You can see that there's haze in the air.
You know, last hour I gave you a compliment, and it wasn't just kind of a pat on the back. It was a very important compliment for the job you do and your qualifications of your job, but I didn't get a response from you in regards to the Google problem and some of the other company messes that are going on around this country. They are starting with their diversity campaigns of hiring people just based on their skin color and or the minority they represent instead of the quality that they bring to the job. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I think that you should always hire the person that is most qualified for the job. Even here at the radio station, you know, when we get applicants all the time, and we really have to vet out who is going to be the best for the job that we're offering.
Right.
And I think that with any kind of company, that needs to be the standard. I do understand the whole equal opportunity stuff, but I always believe that the person that works the hardest is going to get the job.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do, and maybe you don't want to say this, but I will. We are not all equal. This equal opportunity employment is a bunch of barnyard hockey puck. And quite frankly, that's the way I feel about it, because some people have amazing God-given talents in certain areas, but not in others. But to apply for a job just based on skin color or the minority they belong to or group they belong to is stupid, asinine, and it's hurting American business.
It does, and not only that, but when they hire somebody just based on, you know, filling the minority need for the company, it also hurts the rest of their coworkers, because
Absolutely.
Their coworkers are therefore probably going to have to pick up the rest of the slack and or train this person how to do the job that they were hired to do that they should have already known.
Well, real quick, and I don't know if I'm going to have time for that call, but do you as a white female agree with the statements, and I've made it many times on the program, that there is a concentrated attack on Caucasian males in this country?
Oh, without a doubt, hands down, I completely believe that.
Very good. I've got time for one quick call. 1 minute left. Caller, you're on the air. Quickly.
Good morning again. You know, in 1977, I hired the first Mexican-American salesperson. Nobody in my industry had heard of such a thing in Idaho. And he turned out to be really, really good. He had the English language down to science, and his printing was better than you get in your typewriter. You know, he just had what it took. He did not have a high school education, but he was smart. And today, he lives up in Yakima, Washington, and he is a millionaire.
Well, I agree with everything you said, Keith, but we should never hire someone based on a diversity program just because of a certain color or ethnicity. We need to hire the best people that are available for the job. I've got to run to the news, but I appreciate your call, old buddy. Coming up next half hour, we're going to have Dr. History, and he just walked in the door with all of his radiant glory. We rolled out the red carpet for him. He'll be coming up after the CBS News. God bless everybody. Have a great day. I'll be right back. Good morning and welcome back to Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers as our major sponsor, and of course some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services. Get on the route service 734-6969. We're going to have our show Dr. History in just a moment. I want to remind you the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo coming up, and by golly, here's some businesses that say you'd better attend. Streamline Precision at 120 South, 100 West of Burley. Tim and the crew, oh my, they say good luck to all the 4-H and FFA and all the policemen and the firemen. They thank them for their service to us every day of the week. Don't forget to attend the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo thanks to Streamline Precision in Burley, along with Magic Valley Irrigation at 44 East and 500 South of Burley. Jeff and the crew, these are really nice people, and they've been offering irrigation irrigation system service and repair since way back in 1978. And they manufacture wheel line elbows, too. Get a hold of them today. Magic Valley Irrigation, 44 East, 500 South of Burley. And AMI, 719 Overland and Burley. Look for the big 28-foot wrench over the door, and you'll go nuts over their bolts. I love that. They're the meat and potatoes of the industry. Great folks, too. Welcoming you to the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo, AMI. Right now, it is time to welcome back into the studio. We've had all the pomp and circumstance. Deanne rolled out the red carpet, gave him a bottle of water, and told him to sit down. Here's Dr. History.
Well, she didn't tell me to sit down and shut up, at least.
No. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Has the smoke kind of bothered you?
Not that bad.
It did me.
But I told you, we rode up to the top of Mount Harrison on motorcycles last Friday, and you get up above, it's clear and nice, but you look down, and there's just kind of this haze all over the whole valley.
Yeah. And a lot of people that are asthmatic or people that have other lung conditions, it's been tough for them.
Yeah. Yep.
Really tough.
Yep.
What are we going to talk about?
Okay, I'm going to show you a picture, Zeb.
Oh, okay.
All right. Take a look at this guy. His name is Roman Nose.
He was an Indian chief.
No.
He wasn't?
No. That's a misconception, but we'll get into that.
Really?
But take a look at that headdress. Look at the feathers. Look at the pipe, the metal around his neck.
Wow.
All this up on top. And I'm going to describe all that to you, but that is a very elaborate, ornate, I'm going to hand that to you. You take a look at that.
Let me just ask you about this. Now, this is an original picture.
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's black and white.
But this Roman Nose, I've read a little bit about these Indian headdresses, these war bonnets, if you will. Boy, they were treated with the utmost respect, weren't they?
And we're going to talk about that.
Okay, well, listen, I'll let you have at it.
You bet. So we're going to also talk about this guy, Roman Nose, who was not a chief, but was a very interesting, brave guy.
I was wrong. I thought he was a chief.
And a lot of people did. In fact, this right here says that he was a chief, or the picture does, but he was not.
Okay.
Anyway, so the question, how effective was Indian medicine? Okay?
Oh.
And when I say medicine, I don't mean health medicine. Okay?
Oh, really?
I'm talking about power, safe from
like
harm.
telling the rest of the tribe when they attack somebody they're not going to get hurt and all that kind of stuff?
Yes.
All right.
So one warrior rode his horse at a slow trot within 30 yards of 1,800 soldiers.
Not smart.
Each of whom was firing at him. He taunted them. He rode along their front, not once, but several times. The target for thousands of whistling bullets. He emerged from the experience without a mark or scratch. What is more, he repeated the performance on other fields and at other times.
At a trot?
Yeah.
And they couldn't hit him?
Oh, there's more.
Didn't say much for the United States Army back then.
Not. So Roman Nose, that was his name. He was the fightingest of the fighting Cheyenne Nation, which said to be the fiercest of everybody, of all. He had the strong features of the Northern Plains Indian. He had these piercing black eyes, which you can sort of see in that picture.
Yeah, you can.
His nose was hooked like a beak of an eagle. Okay, and that's where he got the. But with this picture, it's a head on. So if we could see a profile, maybe we'd see that.
He was the Ray
beak.
Romano of Indians.
Yep. Anyway, Roman Nose stood about 6'3" or 6'4",
really?
Weighed about 230 pounds. He was every inch and pound of a fighting man, one of the finest that ever lived.
No kidding.
And yet, I'm gonna stick my neck out here. I don't think very many people have heard of him. So I'll be surprised if very many of our listeners know him or have heard of him. Anyway, like most Cheyennes, Roman Nose had more than one name. One was said to be, and I'll probably butcher this, Souts the Bat. And I don't know where that came from.
You're on your own.
Yeah.
Fly.
Anyway, it may have been acquired during one of his campaigns from one of the medicines on his war bonnet. He was called Roman Nose by the whites, and the name caught on with the Cheyennes, who interpreted it slightly different. To them, it meant bird of prey.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that was where it came from, bird of prey. Anyway, apparently Roman Nose was never a chief, but he certainly was at the front in every battle and led many attacks and raids. The whites regarded him as a chief and requested his presence at several peace conferences.
No kidding.
So he was a very influential man, even though he was not a chief. Now, there was another Indian chief named White Bull, and he was his advisor, and some of the Cheyennes esteemed him, this White Bull, as one of the greatest of medicine men. Others said that he was one of the greatest of liars. But be that as it may, he directed the medicine for Roman Nose. It was kind of like a mentor, I guess, almost. So White Bull was said to have gained his powers from the medicine of a deer, a bear, and a wild hog. Now, we're going to get into these war bonnets. Now, these were worn only by those who were the real professionals in war. Only a few of each warrior society were qualified to wear them. And I think that's a misnomer, because I think people think, oh, just anybody in the Indian tribe could have a war bonnet. But that's not true.
You know, when you think about it, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, in a battle, I've heard, whether it's the tribe changing from tribe to tribe, that if you shot and killed the leader wearing the so-called war bonnet, then you've taken the power away from the rest of the tribe until they select a new leader. Right. Is that right?
Yeah. Now, if a person was not accomplished in the art of battle and assumed the headdress, he was scorned by both his friends and his enemies. And it was said that in the Battle of the Rosebud, there was an Indian named Jack Red Cloud, and he was newly off the reservation. He wore his famous father, Red Cloud's bonnet, before proving he was worthy. Well, he was cornered during the fight. The Crows took away his bonnet, or his war bonnet, and his rifle, and the poor guy begged for death, but they only laughed, taunted, and horsewhipped him, telling him to grow up before acting like a warrior. And this was a huge humiliation.
He was the son of Red Cloud.
Yeah, and he took that on himself, not being worthy of it, so to speak.
Oh, my.
Anyway, when it became time for Roman Nose to wear a headdress that signified his maturity in the art of war, he went to White Bull and requested one that would protect him from harm by his enemies and from nature. Okay.
From nature.
Yeah, there's an interesting part of this that you'll see. Anyway, White Bull had just such a war bonnet in mind, one that had been revealed to him in a vision. Okay, it was more than an ordinary war bonnet. For in order to make it effective, elaborate ceremonies had to be observed before putting it on in battle. So there was a thing you had to go through before you even put the bonnet on.
They were pretty big and heavy, weren't they?
They were. There were also restrictions placed upon the wearer. He must never eat food that had been touched by a metal tool or shake hands with anyone. Okay,
wow.
Keep that in mind. Those two things are really important when we get later on. Okay, the war bonnet was composed of everything known that would ward off injury. The explanation of each portion seemed kind of naive and maybe kind of silly, but the total end resulted was undeniably convincing. War bonnets ordinarily were constructed by their wearers, but in this case of Roman Nose, White Bull made his headdress. Okay, so White Bull was kind of an extremely powerful medicine man type person, and he made the war bonnet for what's his name, Roman Nose.
Roman Nose.
Anyway, so I'm going to describe it here. Over the brow band was a single buffalo horn pointing upward. Now, I don't see that in the picture, but it must be there somewhere. Behind this horn and tied to the hair was the skin of a kingfisher, which is a bird. On the right side of his head was a hawk skin. From both sides of his head streamed a trail of eagle feathers, red feathers on the right and white on the left. There's some significance there, and I don't know what it is. On the back of his head was the skin of a swallow, and there was also a part of a bat.
Oh, goody. I'd love to put that on.
Yeah. So the idea was that in battle, the real Roman Nose entered the body of one of the birds represented in the headdress.
How did they keep that on, though?
Well, I'm looking at that, and
in the movies, they show the Indians charging across the desert and everything, and those headdresses staying out. Well, come on, you must have had a stampede string or something.
Yeah. I don't know, because it is awfully big.
Yeah.
So, anyway, the idea was that in battle that you took on the body of one of the birds, okay, and enabling these birds to contribute their qualities to his own natural abilities.
Make sure it's not a magpie.
Yeah, we got plenty of those. Anyway, his body could be fired at but not injured because the real Roman Nose wasn't there. Just his spirit self.
Oh, my goodness.
That is, if the proper ceremonies had been observed and none of the taboos violated. Now, one time Roman Nose made medicine. He was to fast for 4 days and pray for great medicine, for guidance, protection, and supremacy over his enemies. Now, this is kind of an interesting ritual, I guess, if you want to call it that. Okay, now at dawn of the first day, Roman Nose made a raft. He took on board a large buffalo robe for a bed and a smaller one for a pillow and a medicine pipe to smoke. Now, during his meditation, nothing else, no water, no food. Now, the first night, a storm came up, and watchers could see during the lightning flashes, they could see his raft being tossed around on these white-capped waves, and fearing for his safety, they anxiously waited till the next morning. Well, with the dawn, he could be seen floating safely out in the middle of this lake. Still in the water on the lake. Okay, that was the first day. Now, the second day, Roman Nose was observed praying and meditating, and with the second night, another storm came up, even worse, more violent than the first. The waves were higher, tossed more wildly, the lightning flashed more brilliantly, and the thunder was even more deafening. And the third day found Roman Nose still sitting out there on this raft. All right.
But he had his pipe.
He had his pipe.
You don't know what he was smoking, do you?
That doesn't say. Okay, here we go. Third night, the storm again, even worse. His people thought that night he'd give up and come on in, but again, he was unharmed. So now we go into the storm of the fourth night, was the worst any of the Cheyennes had ever seen, and hailstones so big that they damaged the lodges, the horse herds, as well as wild animals, and the Indians were not only afraid for Roman Nose, but for themselves. Well, it seemed that none would survive, but once more, when morning came, Roman Nose was floating safely in the center of the lake, and when he was rowed ashore, when he came ashore,
you almost swallowed a fly over there.
I got to learn to exhale, not inhale. When he came ashore, this was the end of his meditation, and it was evident that he had not been hit by a single hailstorm. Although the rain had been like a solid sheet, whitecaps had broken over the raft, not a single drop of water had touched him.
No, come on.
No, this is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Indian lore.
This was born the living legend of Roman Nose.
Yeah.
If nature's elements couldn't harm him, who else could? Okay. Now, here we go. So the first occasion on record where Roman Nose demonstrated his medicine was in a brush with the Cheyennes. They had a fight with the Blackfeet and the Blackfeet tribe of the Sioux. And here he rode slowly along before the Blackfeet, taunting them as each in turn fired shots or arrows without ever hitting him.
You know, I'm starting to wonder how the West was ever won. Nobody could hit anything.
Well, according to legend, Roman Nose, as I mentioned about, he turned down the offer to be a chief among the Cheyennes because he was afraid that the responsibilities would interfere with his life as a warrior. And that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a warrior.
Yeah.
And so as a chief, I guess you wouldn't maybe necessarily be right in the midst of
Sounds like Mitt Romney.
So, anyway, the white man, to teach them, he was, to them, he was arrogant, he was intolerant, he was stubborn, he was cruel. So the white men didn't have a lot of good things to say about him.
This is Roman Nose.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the first large-scale demonstration of his powers of Roman Nose came during the Battle of the Platte Bridge Station in 1865. Roman Nose directed the fight against a guy named Sergeant Custard, not Custer, Custard, and 24 men and 3 supply wagons. Now, Roman Nose rode slowly around the wagon train, just kind of looking it over. Although all of the men kept shooting at him, he wasn't hit.
He didn't get hit again.
He didn't get hit. So he rode back to his men. He directed them to creep forward under what natural cover they could find while shooting at the train. Well, sometime later, he rode forward again. When no shots were fired at him, he rode on in and found all of the men dead or badly wounded. His brother, a guy named Left Hand, was killed in this battle. And once again, Roman Nose, nothing. No marks, not even a scratch.
Holy cow.
Okay, we got another one.
And he could walk on water.
Well, almost.
Okay.
So the next opportunity to demonstrate his powers came in September of the same year, a short 2 months after the Platte Bridge fight. There was a General Connors had been placed in command of the Powder River Expedition. There was a Colonel Cole, and he was in charge of one leg of this drive, and then a Colonel Walker was in charge of another. So Colonels Cole and Walker actually weren't too good because they'd never had any experience fighting Indians. so they kind of had some things going against him. But almost from the start, they were in serious trouble. And if they had not been rescued by this Major North and his Pawnee scouts of 1,800 men, they would have perished either from the Indians or starvation or exposure. They'd lost all of their horses but a few, and these were unfit for use. Their supplies, wagons, mules, everything was gone. Even their guns, their ammunition, their boots were worn out. They were leaving bloody footprints where they walked. They had been under constant attack. Often their horses were starved for having been continually on the go, being chased by Roman Nose and his guys. So anyway, it was on the Powder River that the battle known as the Roman Nose Fight. So
see, now that's what I've heard of, and I thought he was a chief.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one that maybe some people have heard about.
Yeah.
Anyway, the soldiers were discovered by the Cheyennes, and both sides were squared away to fight when a request to wait arrived from Roman Nose. He said, wait till I get there. He had not yet completed his medicine ceremonies.
Oh.
You see, before the medicine, in order to work, you've got to go through these ceremonies before you go into battle.
Sure, you do.
Anyway, so when he arrived, he rode slowly up and down the entire length of the soldiers at about 25 to 30 yards, not once but several times.
That's only like from home plate to first base.
Daring them not, to shoot. Again, they all shot repeatedly. He did not receive so much as a scratch.
Holy cow.
In the fight that followed, the Cheyenne and the Sioux were driven off by cannon fire, but what Roman Nose did was never be forgotten by the soldiers and by the Indians.
Can this be verified?
It's right here on this paper.
Okay.
It's got to be true.
That makes it okay.
This didn't come from the internet, so I know it's true.
Go. Yeah.
So anyway, a few years later, 1868, terror kind of broke loose along the Kansas border. Attacks were made on ranches, farms, communities, railroads, stage lines.
And you're going to tell me that Roman Nose died in the shower slipping on a bar of soap, right?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, there were a lot of people who were killed. Homes were burned, cattle, horses, mules stolen, and through it all wove the pattern of Roman Nose. So he was kind of blamed for all this. And this happens like even with Chief Pocatello.
Yeah.
Anything happens, the most famous person gets blamed for all of it.
Just like Trump.
Yeah. Anyway, his immunity to personal injury became a byword along the border and added to the horror that paralyzed the frontier. And detachments of soldiers fought battles with him and his warriors, but he had these feats of daring and offering himself as a target. His followers, sometimes he'd go out in front and let his followers escape if they needed to get away, and he always got away to lead other raids and other attacks. So
okay.
All right, now we're not done.
I didn't think we were.
Okay. Even in front of his warriors, his size, and I said 6'3", 6'4".
Big guy.
He was a big guy.
Yeah.
Easily distinguished and never forgotten. In fact, pioneers along these rivers said that his name was used to hush children at night. You know, if your child was acting up, you say, "Hey, you better be good, or Roman Nose is going to come and get you."
I never thought of that.
Yeah, I didn't with my kids either. Okay, so 1868, a body of experienced frontiersmen was organized to fight Roman Nose and another chief called Tall Bull, another Indian.
Yeah.
There was a Colonel George Forsyth with 50 scouts, and they got all the action they wanted. Confronted and surrounded by over 1,000 warriors, they found that the opposing forces were being directed by their old acquaintance, Roman Nose.
Oh, my goodness.
And standing north of them, just out of the range of their guns, he calmly and coolly directed the efforts of the Indians. Now, in the night before the battle, this is where it gets a little interesting, Zeb. Roman Nose had been invited to a feast, okay? Now, remember what I told you, the two things that he couldn't do?
You can't shake hands.
And?
I forgot the other one.
He cannot eat anything that's been prepared with metal. Okay? Roman Nose had been invited to a feast. When all had finished, it was discovered that the woman of the lodge had served the food with an iron fork, breaking the powerful medicine of Roman Nose.
Uh-huh.
Now, almost immediately afterward, the scouts were discovered and hostilities, the fight began. Roman Nose had no time to go through his purification ceremonies that he goes through beforehand.
Yeah.
So the great warrior rode out and directed the fighting from a distance, but it wasn't enough. The battle was going badly, and he was accused of holding back while his friends were being killed. Roman Nose answered that his medicine had been broken, but if it was what they wanted, he would take an active part, although he was sure to be killed. And painting himself in the familiar black and yellow leopard spots, and putting on his famous war bonnet, he rode on into the battlefield. Now, can you picture that? Black and white leopard.
Yeah, kind of an easy target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, when all were ready, aware that he was riding to his death, Roman Nose gave the signal to charge. And he was right there with them. It was a charge and a death that none of the whites would ever forget. His medicine failed. He was killed by a shot from actually the oldest man and the best shot among the scouts, among the cavalry. They finally got a guy that could shoot. Anyway, Roman Nose was hit in the side, but during the ensuing excitement, he managed actually to crawl from a stream bed up onto some land where he was rescued by some of his followers. But he died that night about sundown, and a fitting and appropriate time to end a distinguished and violent career. He was buried actually in secret by his wife in undistinguished clothing to hide his identity.
Really?
Just because I think she was afraid that, you know, being so famous that somebody would maybe try to dig him up and, I don't know, do whatever.
Didn't they have anything better to do?
Anyway, that's
the story of Roman Nose.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably a few people that maybe heard of him. I know you said you had.
I had, yeah. As a matter of fact, I think, and I'm not going to have to stand for this, but I think there was a movie, a Western movie, where they used the name Roman Nose as the chief in that movie.
Well, you know, it's a kind of a cool name for an Indian.
Well, cool unless you had a snozzola like that. But
well, I wish we had a side view of that.
Oh, boy. You could land a boat on that or whatever. Anyway, that is the story, true to the every degree.
You know what? This came from a source that I really rely on.
Oh.
It's Frontier Times magazine in 1964.
Well,
and I've got a whole bunch of those magazines, and I feel like a lot of those stories are pretty accurate.
Yeah, well, they might be. Maybe. Hey, Dr. History, you outdid yourself. Again, you had me hanging on every word.
Do you realize, Zeb, we've been doing this for 10 years?
No.
We've done about 500 stories.
Have we really?
Yeah.
Don't you feel old?
No, you do.
Okay.
We both look old.
God bless you, Dr. History. Don't go away. I need to talk to you for a minute. Hey, don't forget on Thursdays we have a segment called Cache County School Days, brought to you by two of our great sponsors, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, with all of the children clothing and the furniture and, of course, all the new fall clothes are there. My goodness sakes, you better get in today. And don't forget, these folks really care. It's a family store. A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. Along with the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Number to call for outpatient surgeries, and they can save you money. 677-8888. 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cache County on Thursday at 10:10. We're going to send it back to our main studio. I'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and welcome back to our last half hour on Zeb at the Ranch for this morning. We have a guest with us that every time she's on the program, I just really enjoy the articles that she's written for the stream, and that, of course, is Rachel Alexander. And, boy, she hit a home run with this one regarding Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the former IT guy, Imran Awan. Good morning, Rachel Alexander. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I always love coming on your show. You're one of my favorites.
Well, thank you very much. You know, aren't you amazed with your investigative reporting and looking at these stories and everything that this story about bank fraud and under investigation for embezzlement and everything else tied to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, why aren't the networks carrying this story?
You know, frankly, it's the opposite. I'm not even amazed because I know how liberally biased they are, and they are carrying water for the Democrats, and they would rather see this buried.
Well, why don't you, for the sake of my audience and myself, give us kind of a thumbnail sketch as to who this guy is, what he did, and how he's tied to Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Okay, yeah, basically he's this 37-year-old Pakistani named Imran Awan who was hired along with some family members and a close friend to do IT work for the House Democrats beginning back in 2009. Well, these guys were so sleazy, they were double billing, they were taking personal information from House members and transporting it to a private server. Doesn't that sound familiar? That they were all fired and banned from the House network in February earlier this year, except Imran Awan. He was kept on by Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I don't know how he was able to work considering he was banned from the House network, but this investigation started by the D.C. Capitol Police looking into this group of nefarious individuals. And even with that going on, she still kept him on. And the only reason they finally, are starting to get him is because he's been committing mortgage fraud. And he was finally tried to escape the country when he realized the police were after him, and they caught him at the airport. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Well, what about the liquidation that he was trying to take care of before he left the country of over $2 million in real estate properties? Where does this come into the story?
Yeah, one of his things he tried to do is he would try to sell some of his real estate properties to family members for huge prices. They'd get bank loans to buy them, and whenever he would, get money back from the bank for doing this, he would say that it was his primary home, when in reality none of these homes were his primary home. So he was getting the bank to do these loans fraudulently.
Okay, now what about the computers and the hard drives and the tie-in to Debbie Wasserman Schultz and other Democrats?
Yeah, here's where it gets really interesting. So he had access to Debbie Wasserman Schultz's personal laptop. He knew her password right there. He could have been the one to have obtained all the DNC emails, which makes me wonder, why aren't we investigating whether he was the DNC leaker? We've got evidence right here he had access to the DNC emails instead of trying to find an example of Russia having access to the emails. When the police started investigating him, they went to his home because the new tenant there had said that he had found smashed government computers in his home, another crime. And so the police have the computers now, and we are told by a data recovery specialist that there's a good chance they're going to be able to get that information off the computers. And I think, why would he smash the government computers? And all I can think of is there's some corruption going on there, and it's probably related to, collusion with the Hillary Clinton campaign to win the primary.
Holy cow, do you realize what a web of deception is coming out of the Democratic Party from the former chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz? What about Debbie, darling? I mean, when she was asked about all this, I want you to kind of elaborate. She even went as far as to threaten the D.C. police and say that they were the ones in the wrong.
Oh, it gets even better if you've heard the news since then. So we've all seen this video where she is going on and on to the chief of the D.C. police saying he shouldn't be able to take a member's laptop. And she keeps repeating a member over and over again. You can't take a member of the House's laptop, saying that's her laptop. Well, she finally admitted a couple days ago that it wasn't even her laptop. It was Imran Awan's laptop that she was trying to withhold from the police.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, I got so many questions, I don't even know where to start. Okay, let's go to a basic question. Number one, they've got the guy in custody, right?
No.
They don't?
Unbelievably, no. They took his passport. So who knows if that's going to be good enough to stop him. My guess is he's going to make a deal, and he's going to sing, and he's going to, release the goods on Debbie Wasserman Schultz. But I don't know. Maybe he loves her. Rush Limbaugh thinks maybe those two were having an affair.
Okay, wow. I mean, here we go. Another mess. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. This woman has been entwined in a lot of negativity for the Democrats. And why isn't there some kind of an investigation going on about her? Man, I'm more interested in finding about these illegalities with some guy from Pakistan than I certainly am wasting 7.5 months on possible Russian collusion.
Yeah, well, what I think is going on is, they're setting Imran Awan up to be the fall guy so Debbie can skate and she can distance himself from him. She's going to just have the attitude, well, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't realize how serious the criminal investigation was. I'm not the one who did anything wrong.
Yeah, but wait a minute. In your investigative reporting on this, Rachel, you had one sentence that really piqued my interest. They were all on the House Democratic payroll and collectively received $4 million in 2009. Right there, I got to thinking, wait a minute, are there some other Democratic sugar daddies that were paying this guy off?
That's right, and why aren't they speaking out now?
Yeah.
These other 20 to 30 Democrat members of Congress, they had all their personal information and emails, pilfered by this crew. And so where are they? I keep Googling every day to see if they've released statements, and they haven't. And, there's other things you can get Debbie Wasserman Schultz on, but she just seems untouchable so far. These people shouldn't have even cleared background checks to be hired because they had huge debts and bankruptcies in their past. And, once they were hired, they got hired at 4 times the salary of your average house staffer. And a lot of them weren't even showing up to work. One guy was working at McDonald's and then he got fired, but meanwhile he's making $160,000 a year and he's only 20 years old. Another guy was running a car dealership while he was supposedly full-time making $160,000 a year.
Well, what about Awan's wife? I mean, the plot and the sinister aspects of this case are just absolutely outstanding. I understand that when she left for Pakistan, she had a whole bunch of money, like $12,400 in cash, and I didn't know it until I read it in your story that it's illegal to export more than $10,000 without filing a currency transportation report. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, she basically violated, and I'm pretty sure it's a felony, and once they caught her at the airport with the money, they still let her go. So she still was able to commit a felony and take the $12,000 with her to Pakistan.
Why and how? I mean, I don't mean to sound naive, but if it's against the law and the authorities caught her, why in the world were they dumb enough or somebody twisted their arms to let her go?
I just think there's massive corruption going on, that reaches down to law enforcement. And I think, there's a lot of threats and powerful people behind the scenes. I mean, look at the D.C. police's progress on the Seth Rich murder. It's absolutely dismal, and we hear all the time that, they've been told not to do the investigation, not to progress with it, blah, 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 that it's a botched robbery. And I see the parallels here. Who's going to want to mess with Debbie Wasserman Schultz's, number one guy's wife, because you could find yourself on the wrong side of some powerful people.
And then the story within the story that really upset me when I read this is that here is Awan, the guy from Pakistan that supposedly committed all the bank fraud and all the illegalities, when he is approached and then he turns it into, oh, I'm Muslim, so they don't like me, and that's why this whole thing's going on. This is sickening.
It is. That's how they're fighting back. And you probably noticed who his attorney is, who's making all those claims that he's being discriminated against. He's a longtime Clinton insider.
Yeah.
And I could read the whole list, but it's a whole litany of work for the Clintons.
Okay, so you wrote this story, and by the way, again, an excellent job of laying out all the facts. Now, forget the reporter's aspect. Just give me your gut feeling as to what do you think's going to happen with this, if anything.
I think they are going to get at those smashed hard drives, and they are going to find some seriously damaging evidence. I think this is just at the beginning stages of blowing up, and when it's all over, said and done, I think we're finally going to have some fall guys, and I think one of them will be Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah, but wait a minute. I don't mean to pin you down on this, Rachel, but when you say the word evidence, you said, I think they're going to find some damning evidence. What kind of evidence in what regard? I mean, that's what my audience and myself are probably wanting to know right now. What do you think is in those hard drives that, wow, could blow a nuclear cloud over the Democrats?
Well, the main one I think we're going to find is serious corruption regarding collusion with the Hillary Clinton campaign. So I think that's the biggest one. We might find, more of the doings of this Awan guy related to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I'm hoping maybe we'll find some information on Seth Rich. Maybe there's some emails discussing whether he, was the. Actually, I guess it wouldn't have come out yet that he was the leaker, so we probably won't find anything related to that. But we could find emails from Seth Rich himself.
Now, you said at the end of your article that there's going to be a hearing for Awan scheduled in 2 weeks, August 21st. I'm going to sound really sinister when I say this, but I wonder if the guy's going to be around.
That's what I've been wondering, too, because if he is around, they're going to try to make him the fall guy. They're going to try to make him sing, and he's not going to want to do that. So his wife's in Pakistan already. So if he can just get to Pakistan, hide out like Osama bin Laden, he might consider himself better off doing that. So I don't know why they wouldn't think he's a flight risk.
Well, what about the brothers, though, Abid, Awan, and the others? I mean, what about the other sinister characters in this story? Have you heard anything about what's going on with any trials and tribulations for them?
The one thing I've heard is one of the brothers is being very evasive about giving his address, so they're unable to serve him for lawsuits and things like that. Nothing else. As far as I know, they're still in the country. Just his wife is left.
Rachel, you are so good at getting to the basics and the facts of a story. And as you uncovered all this, I would imagine that you sat there at your computer and just shook your head. Holy smokes, and I'm going to go back to the Trump deal. For 7.5 months, we've heard the inferences and the allegations of wrongdoing and no evidence. Here you've got blatant evidence, and it's not even on the CBS News at 6 o'clock.
And they're convening a grand jury to try and indict Donald Trump Jr. for what looks like zero evidence of conspiring with the Russians. It's absolutely outrageous. It's backwards. And, as a former prosecutor, I can tell you that really has me worried because, a good prosecutor can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich, and with all those vague laws out there on the books, the ones they used to get, poor former Congressman Rick Renzi, I can see how they could convince a jury that doesn't really understand the law very well to convict Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah, and let's go back just a little bit. I've only got about a minute and a half left here. But your opinion on the fact that this grand jury, I understand that they've been given lenience and a free rein to where Mueller and the rest of these people, they could be looking back into Trump's business long, long before he ever anticipated throwing his hat in the ring to be president. How is that legal to bring that information up when he was a private citizen and a businessman back then?
Welcome to the legal world. If, a judge wants it to be one way, the judge gets it to be that way. And if you're the prosecutor and you're on the, the right side of political correctness, I mean, you can do whatever you want. Look at the case of Sheriff Arpaio. I think we talked about that on your show before.
Right.
You want to criminally convict someone who's been legally arresting illegal immigrants for years, and now you turn it into a crime? They can do it.
Have you been approached at all in regards to this excellent story about any of the major networks picking up on some of these facts and carrying the story? I got to be honest with you. I channel surf all the news channels. I have not heard sick'em about this story. What are your thoughts?
It's pretty bad. The mainstream media pretty much won't cover it unless they can find something that, makes Republicans look bad. And you've got a little coverage by, the conservative Fox News channel, but that's it. Unless you're going to go to a much smaller network, what is One News Now, one of those things might cover it, but none of the big ones, no. They just ignore it all. All they want to do is cover Russia and Trump.
Well, I want to compliment you again, Rachel Alexander. Excellent job. I know you're going to stay on top of this story if there's any new developments. God bless you, and thank you for coming on the program and talking about this morning. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
All right. Boy, I like her writing, and she is good. Rachel Alexander talking about Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Imran Awan and a whole bunch of money and illegalities that nobody seems to know what's going on. Hey, we got to get a weather forecast here. I know Gina's saying, Zeb, look at the clock. I am. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. And they are great with their retail meat department over there. The best of all the breakfast sausages and all the delicious meats like the bratwurst and the buckboard bacon. They've got it all over there for you at Scarrows Meats. Delicious. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Well, we are still in that air quality advisory. That's going to last through today, tonight, and probably tomorrow. Isolated thunderstorms for today, mostly to partly sunny skies, high of 85 tonight, looking at a low of 57 tomorrow. Areas of smoke, slight chance of scattered rain showers or thunderstorms by tomorrow afternoon with a high of 86, overnight low of 57. Then for Thursday, more isolated thunderstorms are in the forecast with a high of 86. Right now we're sitting at 77.
I appreciate that weather forecast. Scarrows Meats. My buddy Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. Delicious meats. Great. Changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time at Scarrows Meats. Hey, by the way, I don't want to leave the program without telling you more about the Cache County Fair and Rodeo. Oh, my goodness sakes, they are going to have a ripping good concert this Saturday night with Aaron Watson and Ned Ledoux. I'm telling you, I know these guys, and they are going to be great. You're going to absolutely enjoy it. Get your tickets now. Call the fair office and make sure you get good seats for this great big concert coming up on Saturday night. And then next week, all the fair activities. Man, we're talking about rodeo. We're talking about parimutuel horse racing. We're talking about team sorting. We're talking about fun at your Cache County Fair and Rodeo for 2017. You better be there. Tomorrow on the program, and believe me, I'm kind of at a Mexican standoff here because I've got 9:30, 10:06, and 10:30. I'm praying that those time slots are going to be filled because we had some changes and cancellations, and it looks like we may take care of that this afternoon when we get home. But I know that Dave Vigo will be on from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I know the first hour will have some interesting topics for you to call in about. One thing I want to say, and that is, of course, our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. I would not have this program if it weren't for them. They have been the major sponsor on our show for many, many years, and I certainly appreciate them because they want you to drive safely, and they want you to get where you're going this summer with the best of tires for your outfit, your SUV, pickup, car, trailers, whatever. They've got all the tires, all the different tread designs, and they've got the tires that will fit your driving conditions. Stop in and see them today, and also don't forget the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries, but above all, the best of service. They really take care of you. Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I have got to get on the road and go to a doctor's appointment, and I want to extend, again, like we said at the beginning of the hour, the program, send cards of well wishes to Damon. Wheels is the nickname that we've hung on that young man, and he's such a fine young man. He's a little bit under the weather, and I would love to have the cards go to the station, and we'll make sure he gets them. And hopefully he'll be back in the next couple of days. Until tomorrow at 8:06, Zeb at the Ranch saying be careful out there, a lot of smoke, and we'll be back at 8:06 tomorrow morning. Ride the horse for 3 hours until 11, 8 to 11, right here on K-Bar 1230 and streaming live on ZebBell.com all over the universe. Until tomorrow, remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. Thanks, Gina. Great job.